Welcome back to the Gut Health Dialogues. Today we have a special guest joining us to talk about Primal Trust, a powerful brain retraining program. Niki D'Agostino specializes in mold illness, anxiety, depression, food sensitivities, emotional regulation difficulties, and more. Through neuroplasticity therapy, she helps her clients to rewire the limbic system, regulate stress responses, and shift the bodies from survival into healing. Nikki has a master's degree in physical therapy, certifications in the Safe and Sound protocol, positive neuroplasticity training, and the professional's course in neuroplasticity. She's also studied with leaders in the trauma field like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, Peter Levine, and Stephen Ports, and completed Dr. Kathleen King's Primal Trust and Creating Calm courses. She is a Primal Trust instructor. So I am so excited to dive into this conversation with her today. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really interested to talk to you today. One of my dietitians had told me about Primal Trust, and here at Nutrition Resolution, we're helping people with a lot of these gut issues that the medical system is just not set up to help with. The medical system is just for like IBS and a lot of these functional issues, just kind of managing symptoms. So with our program, we help people rebalance their microbiome and support motility and digestion, a lot of the physical stuff, but we also include gut-brain tools as one of the foundational things that we talk about, because you can't talk about gut health without talking about the gut-brain connection, but always on the lookout for more tools, because everybody's different too. What resonates with one person or what works best for one person is different for the next. I was super interested to learn about Primal Trust, and I know my audience will be as well. So maybe you could start by just telling us, what is Primal Trust?
Sure. Primal Trust is a nervous system academy and community. It's designed to help the clients move out of a stress response and to return to safety and healing. A lot of our clients might have chronic symptoms, random symptoms, odd symptoms. And so what they have found and what we have found is combining nervous system health with additional support if needed can really bring back the body's healing potential and allow the clients to move back into safety so that they're able to really utilize additional treatments or supplements to their benefit. And so that's a little bit of what we do at Primal Trust.
So what we notice is if a person's nervous system is dysregulated, we can assume that's true, I think, with most of our patients and with many people, right? Because we're all walking around dealing with a lot more stress than we were naturally set up to deal with. And we're so good at dealing with it that we don't even know that we're stressed, right? Isn't that true?
Right.
So we find that there's only so much we can do if a person's nervous system is really dysregulated. And that's why we start even initially helping them to calm that down. I'd love to hear a little bit about the founder of Primal Trust. And
Sure.
What's her story and how did she get into this? Because I understand she was you can tell us, she was a physical therapist or...
So Dr. Kathleen King is a physical therapist. She's a neuroscience educator. She personally used the tools to heal from debilitating chronic illness and mental health challenges. Back in 2018, she developed her first program, Creating Calm. And a few years later, she developed the Level 2 mentorship. And just recently, the Regulate program, which is really popular right now, is something that really is teaching a lot of the clients the science behind nervous system dysregulation, and that some of the symptoms can be due to chronic stress. It can be due to trauma. The symptoms can be due to relationship attachment stress. So the client is learning how to really interrupt the stress loop with vagal toning exercises, breath work practices, brain retraining, somatics, trauma processing. And the theme is to assist the client in finding this present moment safety. And that allows the client to build capacity for things that can be uncomfortable. You don't have to have a chronic symptom to feel stressed. We as humans can get triggered and feel stressed all the time. So these tools are really helpful for us to move smoothly from being triggered back into safety. And that's the biggest theme in Regulate is feeling the needs that you have in your body, meeting those needs, and then really feeling safe enough to really be your authentic self.
So if you don't feel safe, your immune system responds. Is that what's happening?
Yes, that if we have this underlying perspective of, I'm not okay, I don't trust in my body, I don't trust in this experience, then the body cannot complete the stress response. We have to have this perspective of safety in both the conscious and unconscious mind for our body to really come back into balance and for healing to occur naturally. If we don't feel safe, we can get stuck in the cell danger response. So it affects us down to the cellular level. And if our cells are stuck in protection, then we're not able to absorb nutrients properly. Detoxification pathways can become sluggish. Digestion becomes impaired. So we really want to bring back safety into our body so that our cells can start using the energy to live and thrive instead of using the energy to send out protection signals.
Okay. And a large percentage of people with IBS have trauma in their background. That's what we're talking about, right? And aside from that, also true that our nervous systems can get trained into certain pathways. So there's people with trauma. Let's say we put that aside for a second. And if you get up every day and go to a stressful job for 30 years, don't you wake up and go right into that stress mode?
Yes, exactly. When we have a dysregulated nervous system due to stress, the nervous system is stuck in survival mode. Okay. This impairs digestion, healing, and immune function. And so we really have to bring in more moments of safety and trust to help interrupt this unconscious chronic stress response.
Okay. Because I would imagine there are people listening who think, yep, that's me. I've had trauma in my life, but there's others thinking, no, I don't have trauma, so maybe this doesn't apply to me. So what would you say about that?
I would say that a lot of times trauma is not about the event, but it's how we respond to the event. And what someone may think is a really big deal, another individual might not think it's a big deal. And so something like divorce or losing a relative or being embarrassed publicly or something that causes a lot of stress and feels really hard can be classified as trauma. What happens is with trauma, this activates the nervous system. And if the trauma isn't processed, then our nervous system gets stuck in this survival mode. And this results in a continuous release of the stress hormone biochemistry, which leads to dysregulation and health issues.
Okay. So that you almost get stuck in just a pattern, right?
Exactly.
So for those listening, what I heard you say is there could be trauma that we would classify as trauma, but if you're a really sensitive individual and you've just had a lot of difficult stuff happen, maybe you wouldn't consider it traumatic, but your nervous systems could still be affected in this way.
Yeah. So what happens is if there is an intense emotional event that we're not able to discharge or process in the moment by way of removing ourselves or speaking or presencing, this can get lodged in our body, in our muscles, in our fascia. So it's important to understand that there's different levels of trauma, but experiencing that and not being able to be present with the felt sensations causes the trauma, the memories, the emotions to be stuck in our body. And this can result in symptoms. It manifests as different symptoms.
Okay. And then actually, I found the statistic 30 to 50% of people with IBS do report some sort of trauma in their background. So that's a lot, and so that really speaks to the gut brain connection and how big of a player that is. And I had a mentor, one of my first mentors in functional nutrition. One of the students had asked her, well, how long do patients have to take these supplements that we recommend to them? And her answer was, how long are they going to be in the stressful situation? How long are they going to stay in the abusive relationship? So she was basically saying, like, the stress response has a huge part of it. And it is a huge part of things. We can patch things up on the physical level. We talk so much in functional nutrition and in gut health about root causes. And I think at the foundation of that is what we're talking about.
Absolutely. The brain and the body, they get stuck sending repeated messages of danger to one another. And you really have to interrupt the stress loop in the brain and in the body to move out of this unconscious chronic stress response.
Because that can still be happening long after the stress, right? I mean, you could be retired from your stressful job, and could this still be affecting you even after you feel like you've calmed down?
Absolutely. So what can happen is we experience a stress or an intense event, and the brain can't really process the stress or the emotion. And so the nervous system develops this kind of coping strategy. And the limbic system gets stuck trying to resolve the past on an unconscious level. So you might feel like, I'm good, I've moved forward, but the limbic system is replaying it over and over unconsciously, which is causing a continuous release of cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. And the amygdala, the emotional center, is sending messages of danger to the limbic system. And again, it leads to neurological disorganization and body dysfunction.
Okay. And we're talking about gut health today because that's who we're talking to, but does this have applications to other health issues as well?
Absolutely. We see a lot of clients with increased sensitivity to sight, sound, smell, touch, EMFs, clients that may have been diagnosed with autoimmune disorders, dysautonomia, long haul COVID, mold, Lyme, depression, anxiety, panic. The list can go on and on. Typically, when you have chronic stress, plus an illness and injury, plus an underlying perspective of fear and I'm not okay, that leads to limbic system impairment, nervous system dysregulation, and the cell danger response. And that can result in chronic illness and these health issues that we're working with clients on.
And we're just seeing so much dysautonomia these days. I feel like long COVID, POTS, there's so many things starting to come up. So I think this is super, super relevant to all of that. And we see a lot of overlap with the issues we're talking about. So you mentioned a couple of times the cell danger response. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. The cell danger response is a chronic stress response, but on the cellular level, specifically with the mitochondria. And initially, the cells can go into protection as a normal part of responding to illness, injury, trauma. However, the cells can get stuck in this protection mode, and the energy needed to live and thrive is then diverted to be used to protect. And as I stated before, when that happens, this results in decreased nutrient absorption, decreased detoxification. Now, if the cells get stuck in this protection mode, you really have to bring in this present moment safety so that the danger signal is no longer being sent out to the body. And that's why with Primal Trust, we're teaching clients to really adopt and feel the importance of this present moment safety.
Okay, great. Can you tell us about the process and how it works?
Yeah. So a lot of times a client will come in and they'll start with the Regulate program. And that typically takes 2 to 4 months to complete. They're learning all about nervous system dysregulation and the benefits of regulating their nervous system. And they're learning all the tools that I mentioned earlier. Then they go into the level 2 mentorship, which takes a little longer. It's a 4 to 6 month process. The client is working on deep inner identity transformation. They're working on trauma response reprogramming. They're really learning that their beliefs, their deep beliefs, can be hindering their healing. And they're also on this journey of true self-discovery. And then in the level 3 program, the client is taking the principles that they've learned from level 1 and 2, and they're applying these principles to all facets of their lives. They're continuing their transformation in community through values-based living, leadership, and service.
Okay. And are these like levels that everybody starts in one and then certain people would be recommended to go on to 2, or how does it work?
So Regulate is the introduction to nervous system health. It's the foundation. It's important before you go into the deep identity transformation piece in level 2. And then once you complete, I think it's class 5 of level 2, you can move into also learning and attending some of the level 3 classes. One of the great things about Primal Trust is there's always a live class that's being offered during the week. There's signal groups where you can meet up with buddies and practice the tools together. There's one-on-one mentoring that's available. And this is helpful because when you are struggling with some of the diagnoses that I mentioned, it's nice to know that you're not alone. It's nice to be supported in community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we include tools as part of our programs to help people start to retrain the gut and the brain connection, nervous system retraining. What would be a good candidate to do Primal Trust and go beyond some of those basic tools?
So anyone that's experiencing any type of stress in their day, it may not be someone like we mentioned with a diagnosis. It may just be an individual that feels like there's not enough hours in the day. They feel overwhelmed. I think the key is really adopting these practices as part of your lifestyle and really weaving these nervous system tools in through your day so that you are able to kind of move through life stressors and then return to calm. Some of the things that we are encouraging clients to do is when you are noticing that you're in your head, that you're recognizing if there's an unhelpful story and you would pattern interrupt that and then bring yourself to the present moment. What am I doing? What do I see? What are the things in my environment that I can physically look at and really drop into the present moment? That's just a basic pattern interrupt that is extremely helpful. Another thing that can be very helpful is somatic orienting. So our nervous system is constantly searching our environment for cues of safety or danger. And we're recreating this orienting response by slowly turning our head and our eyes to one side of the room and looking at the details around us with a sense of curiosity, and then slowly turning your head to the other side. This signals safety at an unconscious level. So just taking moments throughout the day to do a few of these powerful regulation tools really allows you to influence your mental, emotional, and your physical health. One thing that I love is the VU breath, which can be very helpful because it's really stimulating the vagus sensory receptors in the gut. And it's signaling this safety message, which goes from the gut all the way back up to the brainstem. And so there's this brain body loop that when you do the VU breath, you're helping to send messages both from brain to the body back to the brain, which can be very powerful and very helpful.
And you're saying the VU breath, is that a technique?
It's a VU breath. Yes, it is coined by Peter Levine. And basically, would you like me to demonstrate it?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So basically your first inhalation is just a normal inhalation. You're just inhaling through the nose. And then on the exhale, you're saying VU. It's a low vibratory exhale, and you're making that tone, and you feel it in the belly. And you can do just a few of these to really help send the safety messages from the body back up to the brain. There's about 80% of the vagus sensory receptors are located in the gut, in the body. And 20% are the motor receptors are in the brain. So as you can see, it's really important to interrupt the stress loop in the gut.
Okay. Wow. So that tone, is that vibrating the vagus nerve through like your neck area?
So, the vagus nerve is one of the longest nerves in our body, running from the brainstem all the way down to below our diaphragm. And so the vibration and the sound is really improving vagal tone.
That's amazing. Yeah. So we hear about singing loudly, but that's a totally different tone.
Yeah. So the principle is vibration and sound that helps to really tone that vagus nerve.
Okay. Now, another vagus nerve exercise that it's not so popular is the gag reflex, right? We hear about that one. Do you recommend that one as well?
That is not one that we are teaching currently. So I like to do the eye exercise. There's several eye exercises. The Rosenberg basic eye exercise, if you're familiar with that one, that can be helpful. There's a near far eye exercise. And visualizations can help tone the vagus nerve. Being in nature can help tone the vagus nerve. So I like to do things that seem more appealing to the client so they'll actually do it.
I was hoping you would say that because I don't like that one either. And nobody does. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Great news. So this is really interesting. Are there any red flags where maybe clients would not be a good fit for this type of approach?
The Primal Trust program is safe and accessible for most individuals. However, if you have a client with severe unresolved trauma, they may benefit from, one-on-one therapeutic support alongside doing our program.
Okay. And how long does it typically take for people to start noticing shifts once they begin?
I think it can take a couple of days to really start noticing what you're thinking and being able to pattern interrupt and just realizing, wow, I'm rehearsing fearful stories, or I'm always in my head and I'm not in the present moment. For me, it took a couple of weeks and I really started to feel more hopeful. I started to really start to notice nature and the things around me because I had been in a chronic stress response for so long that I wasn't present. And so it's recommended for at least 6 months for new neural pathways to be really formed. However, I see a lot of people within a few weeks start to see improvements in physical and emotional symptoms.
Yeah. I think it probably has to do with a few things, right? But also just how easy it is to adopt these new mindsets and outlooks and habits. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you're exactly right. I think that's why it's important to really be consistent and intentional every day about being present and not setting yourself up with this big, long to-do list of everything that I need to do to regulate. But I'm going to pick a couple of things to do each day that is going to become part of my lifestyle, part of my routine. That way the client actually does the regulation practices, and then they start to see benefits, and then they're eager to continue adopting these nervous system healing practices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you've mentioned being present a few times. And so that's a big part of this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because there's usually no danger in the present, right? It's what we're worrying about or what we're still replaying from the past.
Exactly. We're teaching the clients to really become aware that we cannot fix the past and that the past really only exists when we bring it up in a thought. And the safety comes from the present moment. We can start trying to future predict all these different scenarios, and we're creating stress because half of them will not even come to fruition. And so we're really emphasizing the importance of being okay with uncertainty, being in the present moment and trusting in uncertainty. And this takes time, right? We're teaching the principles, we're practicing it. And the more that you can become present and focus on present moment safety, it's easier to be okay with uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have control of these things. We never really have as much control as we think anyway. And when you're worrying about a certain outcome, your body's experiencing it as if it already happened, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's the piece I mentioned earlier where the limbic system is maybe rehearsing something and it's literally releasing the stress biochemistry as if it's happening in real time. So that's why you want to be really mindful about pattern interrupting unhelpful thoughts, unhelpful core beliefs, so that we are not stuck in this unconscious chronic stress response by our thoughts alone.
And it's so unconscious, right? Because our minds are just programmed to think so much. That's what makes meditation so difficult for so many people. I love meditation, but it takes practice. And what I've heard from so many people is, I can't meditate. And I say, well, I get it, first of all, but that's saying I can't lift heavy weights because you can't just go into the gym and suddenly do it. You really do have to train yourself to do it.
Exactly. You're becoming conscious of your unconscious patterns and thoughts and making them more conscious.
Yeah. Because for whatever reason, it's so natural for us to focus on problem solving that we get so focused on problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so this is super helpful. And I know that many listening are interested in learning more. So where and how can people learn more about Primal Trust?
So the website is primaltrust.org. And I recommend downloading, there's a free ebook, over 100 pages on nervous system healing and brain retraining, which will give you a good idea of what Primal Trust has to offer. That's a great place to start.
Awesome. We'll definitely put the link in the show notes for everyone. Thank you so much. That's a really generous free gift.
Yeah, it's really great. And Dr. Kathleen King also offers practitioner training for licensed medical practitioners, which really helps to bridge the gap between medical education and the principles behind nervous system healing. And you can also find more information about that on the website, as well as an all access 2-month provider pass. So this would be someone that doesn't have a medical license, but they want to experience Primal Trust so they can get an idea if it would be appropriate for their patients.
And I think that's what one of our dietitians did. So she's completed that, and that's how I learned about you guys. So,
oh, great. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us. Any words of encouragement for someone who's listening, who's struggling?
Yes, I would recommend really taking that next step and learning how to self-regulate. It really allows you to bring back your body's natural healing ability. And it doesn't take hours a day. You could adopt one or two simple practices that will really allow you to feel safer, to feel more rested, to feel more optimistic. And I would just say that the community that we have at Primal Trust is amazing to be on the journey with. There's always support available.
That's awesome. And I definitely agree that small changes can make such a big difference. You feel it even when you start doing the breathing exercises, you feel it. The relaxation is so fast. And even that is a huge first step. So, well, thank you so much for all this great information. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed being here today. Thanks.